about it. Bear with me. Yeah, all good.
Excellent, thank you. Then good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Joint Transportation Board, Folkestone and Hythe and Kent edition. Please note this meeting is being streamed live to the internet, and please could all members ensure their microphone is set to mute unless they are speaking, as that reduces the background noise. And with that, we will go to the agenda, which I don't know if are you intending to put the agenda on screen, Jake, or are we
If we can roll through it, if that's okay.
that would be ideal. It's just we've got a picture of the logo at the moment, not the agenda. I don't know if you. Okay, I'm going to work without safety nets then. We'll go with item 1, apologies for absence.
Thank you. We have a chair from councillors, apologies, from councillors Carey, Martin and Wing.
Many thanks for those. Any declarations of interest in any item on this agenda? Let's scan the screen and can't see anyone wildly gesticulating. I'll take that as a no. Item 3, therefore, the minutes of the meeting of the 11th of November 2024, which have been circulated. Any people happy with accuracy and to accept? Let's see, broadly nodding,
Agreed.
acquiescence, if not enthusiasm. Agreed. Excellent, thank you. I'm going to take agreement and broad nodding as yeah, we'll take that. Thank you very much. Item 4. I have been told during the course of today that there were 3 different people from Stagecoach lined up to attend, and in sequence, one has now left Stagecoach and the other 2 have decided that they're not attending. The last one of which was confirmed this afternoon, I believe. Jack, we've gone back to them and asked them to make sure we attend the next meeting in this cycle, and they send people to respond. And I'm sure that if people are content, we will do so with a. And we don't think it's terribly courteous to not attend a meeting when you'd agreed that you were going to do so without actually telling us in advance. So there is, on the other hand, little I can do to make them attend when they're not here at this moment. So I will pass on this committee's frustration that they have not attended and ask that they attend at the next meeting in order to give us an update on their services and their changes and the breaking of the 101 route into 27 separate routes, each with conveniently different name, and what impacts and improvements that is having across the network. But we will ask them to come to the next meeting. Which allows us to move to item 5, the Active Travel Fund. So this is an update on the Active Travel Fund Tranche 2, Cheriton to Folkestone walking, wheeling and cycling facilities. You will have seen the report detailing broadly the cycle lane works in Cheriton Road, running from the junction with Cherry Garden Avenue to Radnor Park. And I don't know if any of the people, or whether Martin is going to work us through the report or any detail, or anything to add to it, or whether it's somebody else.
Hi, Jamie Watson, Kent County Council.
Hello, Jamie.
Hi. Yes, it's an information item only, but I can give you a very brief update on the report if you like, Chair.
That would be great. Thank you.
Yep, okay. The document from walking, wheeling and cycling facilities. It highlights the government's 2020 active travel policy and Kent County Council's collaboration with Active Travel England. And it's the initial consultations were fairly positive, but a bit of a mixed bag, as we had several consultations, but subsequent feedback led to the design changes to address some of the construction began in April 2024, and it was substantially completed in December 24. Feedback on the new scheme has been mixed, with issues relating to the bus stops and traffic flow being noted. We've also requested an additional £150,000 due to design changes and the rising cost of construction, which will be met by existing active travel fund funds from. We'll continue to monitor the scheme in the next over the next year or two. I'm sorry if it's been breaking up a bit from my side. The internet's been a bit intermittent since this evening, but that's generally the overview, Chair.
Thank you. I suspect there are going to be a number of people. The hands wave across the screen. Just because they're in this order on my screen, I'll start with Jackie and then Polly. I suspect others may have some input in a second, but Jackie, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It was interesting in the report that it says that you've taken on board some of the things that have been raised and you're looking at the design. We need a serious relook at this. Just a couple of weeks ago, emergency service vehicles couldn't get through, whereas we used to have plenty of room. Now, I understand the need to have safe cycling routes, but that is not acceptable if the emergency services such as ambulances can't get through. So this needs a serious overhaul and a serious look at it. Thank you.
My turn, is it? Right, yes, I have to agree with Councillor Mead that yeah, safe cycling is important, but it's not at the expense of not being able to get emergency services through. And I would also query whether we have actually achieved safe cycling, because I having not cycled it for a few weeks, I did so on Friday, and there were a few things that came to light, such as there's no dropped curb to get on the cycle track outside the Harvey Grammar School, so the cycle track suddenly starts, but there's no way to get on it if you're on a bike. And I think this has been picked up before, and maybe it's in one of the redesign changes that you're drawing down the extra 150,000 for. But at the other end, when you get to the Folkestone Central end, there's no way of rejoining the carriageway other than using the pedestrian drop curb. And just one other thought that has also been raised during this process is I think there was going to be some signage to indicate the cutway that runs between Cheriton Road and St Shorncliffe Road, and that doesn't seem to have been joined up in any shape or form. I mean, the stretches that work are great. The stretches that that separate you from the traffic might be at the expense of the traffic, but as a cyclist, they're great. But it's very bitty and it doesn't hang together as a scheme. And I would just ask about what's the situation with the parking opposite the grammar, because I noticed that the school are using that as overflow parking now. It was very busy on Friday morning, but nothing there today. Of course, they're on half term, so I guess that's what's happening there. And I'd also like to know when the road safety audit's going to take place, please.
Chair, would you like to me to reply now?
I'm going to take those two from there, Jamie, and then we'll come back.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm going to suggest, Chair, if it's right with you, this because there will be a number of issues that I can't answer today, that we have a walkthrough of the scheme with Jackie and Polly and any other interested person. Sooner rather than later, and specifically about the parking opposite grammar school. Again, I did highlight that in the report that we could potentially remove that parking, help with the queuing lanes up to the Cherry Garden Avenue signals. So again, I could arrange to meet and we can talk all through those points that have been raised to date.
I'm sure that a meeting would be welcome, and I'm sure you're about to find more than 2 people would like to attend it. I'm one of them. I had Dylan failing to raise a hand, but sending me a message. So I'll have Dylan and then Connor, who has managed to raise the hand.
I don't know where it is on my system. Anyway, firstly, I'd just like to say thank you for obviously being responsive to the initial problems that we identified, particularly along further along Cheriton Road up towards Risborough, and getting that part removed. Been responsive to some of the changes that were identified during the early stages. The residents have it's been well received. Certainly some of the new crossings, particularly the crossing by Cornwallis into the shared walking cycling alley, but obviously that does need some work doing on it anyway in terms of being overgrown and dangerous. The issues that I've had raised, apart from ones that people will raise, of course, around bus stops and the like, is firstly on lighting. Of a night time, the lighting is really unclear, and I'm seeing some of the markings for the new cycle path are actually worn away already. Now, I'm not sure what paint was used. Maybe it all got used in Herne Bay, where there was an issue with too much red paint. But nonetheless, there was with some of the markings disappearing. Secondly, obviously, in terms of a new route, it would have been good to have been a priority route for cleaning, just to ensure that the markings were clear when people were using them. As has been mentioned, the issue up by Radnor Park, where cyclists, it looks like it's only a cycling lane, and pedestrians are expected to walk along the path in Radnor Park. That's really unclear because I can't see any signage. And then, as Polly has mentioned, where cyclists then come off is anyone's guess before they start playing with the roundabout by Folkestone Central. In terms of the next step, I am concerned about removing any parking. We fought long and hard to retain the parking, to then talk about taking parking away, irrespective of whether it's used as overflow for the Harvey Grammar or not, is irrelevant in my book. It's used also on football days and other busy events in the bowls club. So I would be very, very, very reluctant to take any parking away, given that was one of the main issues that residents were really concerned about in terms of visitors coming along. And then just to again echo what's been said around adequate signage, I think we just need to improve some of the signage. One of the other things that really came up during the whole process, and I think this is a learning curve for future works by the Active Travel team and KCC, was residents along Cheriton Road. Literally, they had nowhere to go when the works were taking place. They lost the pathway. There was no way for them to come out of there. They literally had to come out into the road if they were walking out of their houses. And that was raised several times by residents, and they never got a satisfactory response. So again, for future works, we just need to ensure safety of the carriageway for residents that are affected where these works are taking place. So there's some good bits and some bad bits.
All right. I'll take Connor and then Rory as the order I saw the hands.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, just a couple of little things to add to what's already been said. I mean, the main bullet points in the report. I mean, but it doesn't mention, it mentions the right hand turning into Morrison's, but it doesn't mention the right hand turning into the Three Hills, which again, does cause problems backing up, especially football days, big hockey days, that sort of thing. So there's that. And there's also the other thing that has been mentioned quite a lot, which people seem to have trouble with, is when you come out of Radnor Park Road West, because of the where the cars are always parked on, quite close to the curbs there, you can't see the oncoming traffic to turn out unless you're actually on the cycle lane. It is impossible to stop before the cycle lane to turn out into the main road from there. So and that's probably the only other, they're probably the two main things that aren't mentioned in the report that have been mentioned to me.
Thank you, Rory.
So yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was interested in Jamie's point that there's been that the public reactions have been mixed. When somebody says that, it often sort of conceals a whole lot of rather unfortunate reactions, and I just wondered whether we have the sum total of the public reactions at 3.3 in the report, or whether there's more. Could he just expand on that, and then, with your permission, Chair, can I come back with a couple of questions?
Chair, yes. So it's a lot of the reactions we've had post completion have been mixed, and they've been based widths. That's really what the report was aiming at as far as post completion, and the consultations had a mixed reply because we've had three consultations prior to the construction. So it's just the mixed was, it hasn't all been positive on some of the designs, and it all hasn't been positive or negative post completion.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Which was probably what some of us were expecting, that there would be a continuing concern about some of the aspects of this after completion. Certainly, those bits that are working well and that have had good responses, that's great. I remain concerned about any impact on businesses in the high street, and what I'm concerned about is that if the word gets round that you can be stuck for 15 minutes behind a bus, people will choose to bypass the high street. This high street relies on passing trade, as well as, there's local trade, but actually there's a lot of passing trade. It's the fact that it's been a vibrant high street, plenty of parking spaces, as Dylan said, and that's something here that I were very concerned about in the first place, and overturned the initial proposals on that basis. And if people get the impression it's going to be difficult, they just won't go there. And secondary high streets are actually, I think we heard last time, it's a tertiary high street technically. They are on the brink, and this is a really active high street. It's one that has bucked the trend, but it won't take much just to push it over the edge. So I think we just we need to look at that. We need to look at whether there are better ways to ensure that traffic can continue to flow. Jackie raised the point about emergency services. If they're stuck for 15 minutes, that's serious. So I think that, yes, having a walk through would be very helpful, because I think one of the things about Cheriton is although a lot of this is not in my patch, the whole of Cheriton is one community, and it relies on everything working together. So and that's why, again, I agree with Dylan on parking right up at the other end, which is way outside my patch, but it's those little factors that make a difference to how sort of engaged and how lively a community is. So I think we need to take a look at that. And there's some positives, but some of the negatives that we thought might go once it's installed are clearly not yet going. So there's some work to be done, I think. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you for that. So I think I've doubled down, JB, on the on-site meeting. I think we would very much like that. I think I think I'd work on the presumption that if you can find a date and time and send that to all members of this committee, and they can make their decisions whether they can join that, I imagine you might have more than just a couple of people there. But I think that would be great. I think I'd certainly like to add that in terms of the design itself, I can tell from your mixed response at this stage that Kent Highways are not on Facebook. It ain't mixed. in terms of the changes which have been made along along there. The overwhelming criticism is putting the bus stops in the road, particularly where you've got width for them not to be in the road. And to have created that problem intentionally in the design, and then to seek to mitigate that, to turn around, post that and mitigate that problem by saying what we can do is take away the parking spaces that you said couldn't be taken away, is the wrong response to the question. The right response is, why have we not put the bus stops where they were logical? And certainly outside Morrison's, there is enough meterage there to do that by the spade. There's just so much space there in order to have that there, and yet we are parking buses in the running track, which is causing the problems of the emergency services getting past. And to mitigate that by let's take away the parking spaces the other side of the road seems to be avoiding responsibility for the design which was there. I think the one other point I would make in running at the stage is that a large part of my support for this scheme originally was that the original design included changes to the phasing to the Cherry Garden lights with Cheriton Road, where we still got an unrestricted right-hand turn coming from Cheriton Road going up Beechborough Road. Which is something there were going to be changes to make that junction safer. There were going to be changes to allow for filtering, which did not involve getting yourself halfway across a running track and praying that nothing is coming the other way and ducking behind traffic. And nothing has changed in that. You still have to just get yourself into position and hope something is not coming from the other way if you're doing a right-hand turn going from Cheriton Road into Beechborough Road. And it was, as part of the scheme, agreed that that phasing would be different, so that there would be actually timed phasing to do that, and it's not there. And the most dangerous part of that road is that junction, and we left it. We built a cycle route away from it one way and abandoned the cycle route the other way. And I don't understand the logic whereby we look at that stretch of road and leave the most dangerous thing in it, and just work our way through it. You even refer to it. It's referred to under item 2.6 in your response that it's decided to remove the signalised junction from it, despite the fact that it has a poor crash history. So we've come up with a scheme which would help us mitigate that problem, develop the scheme, and then taken out the bit which would help mitigate that problem. And I don't get it, but I look forward to discussing that in person on a site walk around with any other members which come. I can't see any other hands at this moment. Jamie, are you happy that we can get together a date for us to do, as I said, site meeting, or at least in-person meeting, having walked the site?
Yes, please. Yes, I'll arrange that with Jake and invite all members as requested.
That would be very welcome. So thank you very much indeed for that, and thank you for coming to the meeting and presenting a report, providing a marked and welcome contrast from Stagecoach. Unless there are any other points of discussion around that, then we should move to the forward programme. I don't know if that's going to be presented. Martin, are you taking us through this?
Blimey, all right then.
Feel free to nominate another colleague.
No, it's absolutely fine. We've got some coming works on the roads below. Most of the works was already completed, as you can see. For this financial year, for the summer, we have already been committed to the Susted Bend. I'm not sure that's well, I'll start with the Spitfireway. So the high friction surface in Hawkinge on Spitfireway, which is the Hawkinge bypass, including the roundabout outside Lidl in Hawkinge, will be resurfaced, and that will happen in summer. Then it's not on the list, but there will be done some maintenance works on the at the bottom of Spitfire Hill on the roundabout, where the signage and the state of the of the roundabout is been deteriorating. So that will be done in a few weeks, and then we've got Selsted Bend in Canterbury Road in Selsted, where the high friction surfaces at the moment, up to the boundary with the Dover district. That will be resurfaced in summer fully. However, when it comes to the high friction surface, we won't be reinstating the high friction surface in the whole length, as for unknown reasons the high friction surface was put into place, but it's not necessary, according to the safety team, that only in some sections the high friction surface will be reintroduced. However, the road will be resurfaced, and there will be also some minor works with the drainage, because there's a constant problem with flooding. Then we've got also, which is not on a list, that team we might be quite pleased about. It's the Sandgate Hill and the road, Sandgate Road with junction with Military Road outside Saga, up to the Sandgate Hill, that will be resurfaced this year. And then last but not least, which we aren't completely sure if that's happening this year, might be the Romney Avenue in Folkestone. We are not sure if that's happening yet. So that's maybe. Right. Do you have any questions about one of these?
I
Anybody?
can only celebrate the Military Road, the resurfacing of Sandgate High Street from Military Road up Sandgate Hill. And did you give me a date for that? Sorry, I was overcome by
It
the
will be
emotion.
summer.
Didn't
It
make a
will
note
be
date.
summer this year.
I look forward to that enormously, and sincerely hope that Southern Water don't then turn up a fortnight later and undo your good work.
Yeah.
But thank you for that. I'm sure we have questions on items of the report. In fact, I can see one from Rory, so I'll go to Rory. I've got one myself, but anyone else with a question on any section on this report, please show. But Rory, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I also echo that with Sandgate Hill. That's most welcome, and with the same proviso as you, Tim, that let's hope utilities don't come later. Can I ask a question? Actually, it's not quite on the agenda, but you'll rule me out, Tim, if it's stretching it too far. Churchill Avenue. There was recently, well, not so recent now, I guess, a change in the lanes at the roundabout at the top of Cherry Garden, such that if you're going in a westbound direction, there used to be 3 lanes, which have now moved down to 2. And the way the lanes are designated is that the left-hand lane takes traffic both for the M20 and for Folkestone. And what that means is that there's very often a delay, because there's queuing from the traffic lights in Cherry Garden Avenue backing up onto that roundabout. And it means that anybody wanting to get to the M20 can't get to the M20. It seemed quite an unnecessary change. It's actually quite a lot of motorists have said to me they find it quite dangerous, because the left-hand lane is in effect used as 2 lanes by a lot of people, sort of continuing the old practice. What was the story? I mean, again, if this is the reason I raise it is because we're talking about Churchill Avenue. I'm just wondering whether there is any hope that might be changed again in the future.
Well, that's a good question. Unfortunately, I have no answer for that, but because this scheme was carried out by National Highways, and I believe he wasn't consulted with us, unfortunately. But what I will do, I will have a chat with James Bowen, and we will arrange the meeting and have a chat with National Highways and get their reaction to that. I wouldn't be able to answer that question right now.
That's fine, and I appreciate that, and thank you for the response that you have given. And part of my slight confusion was when I saw that, you know, there were a couple of Churchill Avenue schemes here. I was thinking, I'm sure that previous one was National Highways, and yet here are local schemes. So you've given a degree of clarification as well about who was actually responsible for that. So many thanks indeed.
You know, unfortunately that roundabout, including the slip roads, is maintained by National Highways.
Yeah. Okay. Many thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
I will get back to you, Rory. Once,
excellent. Superb. Thanks.
Thank you for seeking an answer on that. I have Dylan through the comments, and then Tony and Polly in that order.
Okay, my question's in relation to we're up there, page 20, microsurfacing within the report. So we've got Pine Kiln Lane there between Ashley Avenue and Cherry Garden. Now there's a number of issues there. Number one is obviously there's extensive use by lorries that are churning up the road. I've been along there, I went along there yesterday actually, and looked. There's loads of 7.5 ton signs up, but no one seems to be enforcing it. So if we microsurface the road, spend a lot of money redoing it, it's going to get ruined pretty quickly again. Because the weight limits are not being enforced. So I just wonder if we are going to spend money doing these roads, can we also have enforcement or something in place to ensure that there are not lorries ripping up the road straight after the works have been done, or is it a bit pointless us proceeding?
Again, I will have a chat with James Bowen, ask him in regards to that. If those signs are blue, then it's advisory. Not sure if they are what colours are those signs, but I think you're muted, Dylan.
All right, they're saying 7.5 tons of the big red triangle, and I went along a couple of days last week and recently I took lots of photos of overladen lorries speeding along. Breaking the rules. So it clearly does need some enforcement, and it has been raised by locals.
I believe this one would be down to either Kent Police. We have no authority or powers to enforce it in such way as a case, or
we do when it's local businesses that are doing it, and it has been reported. And this has been ongoing for quite a while. So as I say, I went down there last week. I've been down there quite a lot, and I've witnessed it for myself. So I will be raising it obviously with the enforcement team. But my concern is if we are going to spend money microsurfacing, which is not a cheap process, it's not like patching. It's it's a whole stretch of road. It's pretty pointless if the damn thing's going to be churned up. Apologies for language.
I understand that. I understand your concern. The microsurfacing, it's quite durable surface. It's been used on A roads, so that should hopefully prolong the life of the surface for good 10 years. It's been done on Station Road in New Romney, and that still stands absolutely fine. So I'm not really concerned of heavy traffic as such on the microsurface. It's more like perhaps on junction where the wheels are turning, and that obviously that's what you're saying. It's quite concerned that the heavy traffic is using the where it's prohibited. So again,
But the other thing, Martin, I don't want to happen, and Polly has raised this with me previously as well, is we don't want the road to be improved and then more speeding to happen along there where the school is either. Because there's massive issues there where we can't have crossings where we want them or need them. It's very dangerous for local children. And therefore, if you improve the road service, you might actually encourage higher speeds as well. So I think we just need to look at that whole stretch, both in terms of speed, use, and durability as well.
What I can do, I'll put all the things down, and we will discuss it, and I will get back to you in regards to that, and in regards to also safety schemes, if there's any issues in that area.
Thank you for that, Martin. I can only ask you to do that. Though I have got Tony and Polly in that order, Paul just put his hand up. I don't know if it's response to this this point that you want to come
if you
in
look on
for.
if you look on the KCC's Trafweb, you can see along Cheriton Road it's actually a no waiting for HGVs or 7.5 tons. So that will be a parking enforcement. That's nothing to do with moving traffic. So you could have all your lorries in the world going down there legally. As soon as they park, then obviously that's where we jump in. But if you're in doubt, as I say, just go on Trafweb and then you can see all the restrictions on there. There's nothing up Cherry Garden itself, just along Cheriton Road.
Right, I think that's very helpful. Thank you. I will.
Yeah, it's 7.5 tons.
Should Dylan spend some time with Trafweb? No.
Yeah, it's exciting, I tell you.
Worryingly, that probably counts as not bad entertainment to this particular group of people. On which note, Tony, your floor.
It's very kind, Mr. Chairman. My broadband had dropped out for a while. Great loss, I know. But I'm up to page 21. Are we anywhere near that yet?
Well, feel free to shoot for that one. Go for it.
Okay. Martin, it's Tony. Hope you're keeping well. It's about the drainage outside the garage in the high. On this, it mentions about Station Road, New Romney, installation replacement of collapsed chamber, which we have more than one. But is anything? Can you make a note to ask somebody about the pipe, the collapsed pipe? And I think it's going to be Southern Water, and the regular flooding of that road, the 259 outside the. It was the Shell garage. I think it's BP now. If you can come back to me at some time in the future, I'll be grateful. I will chase Earl on it as well. But it's something that needs to be sorted out. Is that okay, Martin?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'll take a note and I'll get back to you, Tony.
Yeah, kind lad. Thank you.
Right.
I was going to say how good it is to hear that Romney Avenue is on the list, because that's in the right old state. So it's when we have a date for that, I'd love to hear it.
I don't, but get excited, but not too much, please, because those first 3 roads will get, let's say, done this year. The Romney Avenue is also get done, but it's not 100%.
I get that.
They already,
I get that, but it's on your radar. That's good enough for me.
Yes,
I'll take that.
3 roads, they already have a project for that. They already have a drawings. That's definitely going in Romney Avenue. He start working on the project, but again, that it's not set in stone. But we're pushing really hard for that road to be done, because we recognise there's a lot of issues, especially at the bottom of the hill where it's not ideal condition.
That's really good. I also wanted to mention, it's coming back to the junction that Tim was talking about 10 minutes ago, the Cherry Garden, Beechborough, Cheriton Road junction. And I think I raise this every time, and it's always on the list as something that's going to happen at some time in the future. It'd be so good if we could just get some kind of a time scale on that. I mean, it's heart stopping in a car, but I don't know if any of you have ever tried it on a bike. It's absolutely terrifying. And I hear so much about it. I'd love it if we could just get that one moving along.
Are you talking about the road condition?
No, I'm just talking about that junction, the junction with the where you have to hang out in the middle if you're turning right, and it's on an angle, and there's so many accidents there.
Let me just write it down. I know there was a scheme, or there's a scheme in regards to the Centre Island and with junction with Cherry Garden and Cheriton Road. But that scheme was already postponed a few times. But I will get back to you, or James will get back to you in regards to that, where we stand at the moment with that scheme.
Thank you.
Because I know that that place is prone to RTCs quite often. That's
It's,
why we didn't bother to installing the permanent bollards,
Yeah.
because it's just happening too often.
Thank
All I can say that on that place where the speed camera is, or traffic camera is, that we're going to do some minor patching and maintenance in early new financial year. But yeah, all right.
I'm certainly, yeah, just again to back up Bonnie's point on that, I find it concerning how often that we can acknowledge that there's a serious accident risk there. We can write it in reports that there's a serious accident risk there. We know that there's a problem there, and at some stage somebody's going to have an accident there and sue the county council for it because they knew that there was something there but hadn't got around to doing something about it yet. Isn't a strong defence in law, and we're going, it does just continue to be delayed and delayed and delayed. It was a drum I was banging in 2009, and nobody heard my drum then, and many cars have crashed. I'd say crashed under the bridge, but there isn't the bridge quite there, but 200 meters away since then, and the problem is still there, and it is just obvious. But yeah, I'm welcome. I absolutely welcome the Rodney Avenue work. Thank you ever so much for that. We don't need it set in stone, but tarmac would be great. That would be ideal. And as you say, it's the bottom of the hill is a particular problem and has been for ages. And just to say, in terms of the, it just occurred to me, the resurfacing of the 259 from Military Road upwards. Obviously, or maybe not obviously, you may know that there's a local scheme as well in place to put in a 20-mile-an-hour zone covering a percentage of that from Military Road up about 100 meters or so, which may interface with that, particularly the red roundel which is on the road in that stretch, etc. It would just be worthwhile making sure that you, in terms of the surfacing team, know what's happening there, and we don't accidentally phase those two things in the wrong order and create new 20-mile-an-hour signage and lines and signs and then erase them the following week as you resurface up the road. But if we do it in the right order, there's time and money to be saved there. So just make sure that we're interfacing between those two schemes.
I will put it down. I will inform the engineer who's responsible.
Right. I'm sure it was on someone's radar. I just wanted to make sure that just wanted to be clear that it's said out loud.
Well, I will have to get back to you directly.
Yeah, that's great.
Regards
Thank you. One substantive question on Appendix C, street lighting. Looked down, so we've got 14 street lights there that were programmed for 14 street lights there, I think, for the annual program, of which one has been completed and 13 are still programmed to be done by the end of March. Is there, and you'll maybe not be able to answer this, but need to speak to the streetlight team. Are there more of those that are completed that haven't been reported as completed? Do they come in batches of 13 and we're awaiting them all to be delivered and installed during the course of March? Or is there a likelihood that they're not all going to be done by the end of March if we've only done one in 11 months, in 10 months, and got quite a lot left outstanding?
Unfortunately, again, I wouldn't be able to give you an answer right now, but I will ask the street lighting. I will get back to you in regards to that. The time scale.
That's fabulous, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this report, or shall we go on? I can't see anyone else going for it. Okay, that's that report. Many thanks for that. And we will go to item 7 at the A260 Canterbury Road Dunsole reduction in speed limit discussion. Polly and I were asked to attend a outside of this meeting briefing on the A260 and their ongoing requests from the parish council and others for the speed limit to be reduced either from 40 to 30 mile an hour along a stretch of that road. And the officers spent some considerable time and patience with myself and Polly, explaining why they were not going to do that under the current conditions. Their rationale, which is reasoned, is that just putting up a sign saying that the speed limit is now 30 miles an hour, not 40 miles an hour, doesn't slow traffic down. And therefore, if you're going to reduce, although they accept that traffic should be travelling slower along there, they would need to see traffic mitigation, traffic speed mitigation there before they would be willing to do so. They also said that they had spoken to Kent County Council and that they would not, Kent Police, and Kent Police would not support a 30-mile-an-hour speed limit at the length of it. When we questioned where they were looking at, effectively the length of it that they were looking at seemed to be from the roundabout by Hawkinge pretty much to Selsted. And I don't think that that had been the intention of many people who had been discussing that. And we were saying that 30 mile an hour by the Bend and the Black Horse pub and where the new houses is going and the shop would be pretty reasonable. And that if that stretch was covered by a 30 mile an hour and signs which currently say 40 all the way along there read 30, that might help quite a lot, including the active speed signs and things like that. I think it would be fair to say that we were met with some resistance on the point. I'll allow Polly to back me up or otherwise.
Well, the start of the meeting was, however much we talk about it, it's not going to happen. So it did feel like we were on the loser to start with. But Tim's pretty much summed it up. But the only thing I would add was that it was slightly alarming that there didn't seem to be much of a link up between the planning team and the highway and the team we were talking to in terms of that development that's coming forward that came to planning in the autumn. So yeah, hopefully we've encouraged them to sort of talk to one another, because they didn't even seem to know that there was going to be a new albeit uncontrolled zebra crossing across there, which when you've got speeds of up to 40 and then you're going to plonk a zebra crossing on that stretch between the new development and the shop and the pub is slightly alarming. Can't quite see how that's going to work. On the plus side, they did say that once that development is in, that all in itself changed the environment, and then arguing for a 30 mile per hour might be more doable, but that seems a bit cart and horse in the wrong order for me. But yeah, that's kind of where we got to with it.
Thank you, Polly. Yes, I agree with you on all of those points, and yeah, it was disturbing that they didn't know that there was a 40 to 45 house development has been agreed there, and that included within it crossing of the A260, and their reaction to that was, "Oh, has it?" Which did seem alarming at the least. We have. I'm going to take it on the basis that Dylan still can't find his response button, has put it in the comments, that Jackie gets there first on the basis that she can find a yellow hand and raise that in the air, and then Dylan can go after.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed that meeting. I didn't see it come into my diary. This came forward when the development was passed at planning at district. And the residents have been trying for a very long time to have the speed controlled just along this area, because they really do take their lives in their hands. And with another, 40, 50 families possibly living there, once the development, it's an accident waiting to happen. The residents know this. They've asked KCC and be battered back, very similar to yourself, Tim and Polly. I think we need a renewed emphasis, shall we say, on this, and I'm very happy to support, because waiting until that development is in and then saying, oh, we'll look at the traffic calming, seems totally the wrong way round. And as I say, it's asking for an accident to happen, and an accident we desperately do not want to happen up there. So any support that I can give, I most certainly will do. And I'm sorry I missed that meeting, because the residents did ask me to support them. Thank you.
And Dylan. And now he can't come off mute. Technical genius.
There we go. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so a number of issues have been raised around this. Obviously, it was on the original parish council HIP, and I guess that the questions are, as you know, Tim, around reducing actual speeds rather than the speed limit and stuff. And there, I don't know if there was a request, as I understand it, from the cabinet member for highways in discussion with you that that there be a future paper brought to JTB about how speeds can be reduced in general as opposed to speed limits, and how that can best work to enable a wider understanding, rather than actual bring perhaps individual issues like this that have already been addressed within HIPs. I think that would be better in terms of gaining an understanding for members of JTB. So that request was made that a future paper be brought to the next JTB from KCC around looking at how we can reduce actual speeds.
I don't say this often, but that's an email that I missed. I apologise to do so. The only request I had, the only notification I had is that officer declined to speak at this meeting. They hadn't offered a paper at a subsequent one. So I hadn't seen that we were offered a paper in terms of speeds in general.
I think it was the turnaround time. Sorry, Tim. I think that was the problem. It was from when the discussion took place and when you requested this on the agenda. It's the turnaround time to actually get a paper for consideration.
Well, I would have been happy to have accepted if they'd said it will come to the next meeting, but that wasn't what was given to me as I recall it. Our email, I will take that back when you point at an email that you were copied into, which I'm on, that says, and a paper will come to a subsequent meeting.
Okay.
I don't recall that one.
On that basis, therefore, I would like to propose that we actually have a paper looking at how speeds can be reduced and the different methodologies that can be employed to make that happen, rather than just looking at speed limits.
I absolutely accept that, and I think that would be welcomed by people. And broadly, that was the proposition of Ken Highways as well at that stage, is that you couldn't reduce the speed limit to 40 without reducing the speeds, and to reduce the speeds you need speed mitigation measures there. So you'd be looking at rumble strips approaching. They talked about the various things that they'd looked at, but they didn't think were worked in those locations. And that was the basis of a long conversation that they've had previously with the parish. I get that, don't necessarily accept all of their points, and I don't necessarily accept that the mitigations were impossible. But yeah, very, very happy that we can actually have a reasoned discussion. But I think this was on one specific location whereby, and it was clear within that briefing, which Polly and I then had as well, that they were talking about a scheme which ran about 4 times as long as anybody local has, 4 times the length of anything anyone local had requested. And the answer was the average speeds along the entire length up from the roundabout at Hawkinge right the way down through Benson to the Southstead was 40 miles an hour. The answer is, yeah, I imagine it is. What's the speed actually on the 300 or 400 metres that we're talking about, please? And that number has not been tested, so they haven't got a response to that. But they were happy to reconsider that and look at a shorter length of it, but in context of the new development there and in context of the new crossing, because that in itself introduces a new hazard for that road. And also an additional concern that you've got things travelling at 40 miles an hour. But again, their other point, which was reasonably made at that stage, is that if you put in a 30-mile-an-hour zone and somebody is doing 50, people are expecting it even less than if they're doing 50 in a 40-mile-an-hour zone, and a number of people currently are. So you don't necessarily make things any safer just by saying it's slower. You need to actually make sure it is travelling at that speed as well. A point well rehearsed on the A259 in Sandgate, where you know that you can't get a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit unless your average speed is already under 24 miles an hour. I am boringly expert on the subject these days. Grand. I will certainly happy to accept the proposition of a paper on that basis. Everyone else content to hear more on that from an officer? I'm seeing no objections, so I'll take that point and thank you for it. unless there is anything else on Canterbury Road, we'll go to the brief paper on a new proposed parking restriction. And Paul, this is your moment. Paul is no longer on the call.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
there he is.
I was just scrolling down just to get to it. Yeah, nice and straightforward, this one. You've probably seen on the map there. So if you've got any questions on it or anything similar, let me know. If not, then we can crack on.
I think joining up 2 corner double yellow lines across somebody's the front of somebody's house is not something anyone here is likely to be opposing. I can't see anyone opposing.
No, as you
Jackie
as
appears
you
to
may
be
know, we don't
striding
normally put
furiously.
double yellow lines across driveways, but this one doesn't look like, you know, it's an access point really rather than a driveway, and we've got yellow lines in front of the car park that's slightly to the left of this location. And yeah, we've just had a few concerns that vehicles have been parking there because they see a gap in the yellow lines.
So, although I do question what the difference between a driveway and an access point is.
Who knows?
If I can understand the difference between those two, I might be able to use it to someone's advantage in future. But I understand the point. Have provoked enough discussion that both Rory and Tony, in that order, are now interested in speaking. Rory.
Yeah, thanks, Tim. I think actually Google Street View probably illustrates rather well what the difference is in this particular case between a driveway and an access point. And it does appear that the it looks as if part of the curb has at some stage fallen away, which is very convenient, quite clearly, for the access point. But Google Street View also rather well illustrates the reason why there should be a small extension of the double yellow lines, because at the time that the latest, I think it's the latest Street View pictures were taken, there is indeed a car that's blocking the access to the section that's used for parking. So I've no hesitation in saying we should proceed with this.
Thank you, Rory.
Thank you, Tony.
Sorry, Chairman, I've had loads of broadband problems tonight. I've had 5 dropouts in a row, and I've lost my thread. Whereabouts are we?
It's me, Tony.
We're currently in Shorncliffe Road. Welcome back, Tony.
Yeah, and Paul, I want to chat with you. I'll be giving you a call in the week about the Coast Drive.
But specifically on the subject of Shorncliffe Road.
No, I'm okay, thank you, Chairman.
On that basis, I'm going to take that as no disagreements from the panel on that one. Grand. In that case, we've hit the end of our agenda. It's 6:59. Thank you everyone for playing. Thank you in particular to our officers for attending, Martin, Paul, etc. And Paul, watch out for a call from